Hello and good morning. Today we're going to be going over the intermediate algorithm scripting challenges over at freeCodeCamp.com. And today we're specifically looking at the challenge search and replace. Now, this is a pretty simple challenge, especially if you've been following along up to this point, and you probably aren't going to need much help with it. But anyway, I'll walk you through some of the specifics of this challenge, or at least the way that I was able to solve it. So I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to take a look at what we want here. We have a function that's going to take in a string and then a before and an after. And what we want to do is we want to have a long string and just replace one word that's identified with another word. Okay, so that's pretty easy. Now there's a trick to this. Of course, it's a little bit more complicated than this, but this is what we're given. And we're going to be looking at replace. And if you take a look at replace, it does exactly what you think it does. So we have a string.replace, and we replace something that's found in this case re, which happens to be a variable that is apples. And it's actually given in a regular expression, which has these slashes, and then gi, g being global, I for ignore case. So ignore case, so any of these letters, capital, not capital, anywhere. So anytime you find apples in any capital, not capital form, all right, replace it with oranges. And here you go, apples are round, apples are juicy. Now it's oranges are round, oranges are juicy. So let's do that here. What happens if we just use a simple replace? So this string dot replace, all right, and what do we want to replace? We want to replace this before with the after. So before, comma, after. Okay, that seemed extremely simple, right? So let's see what happens when we do that. Oh, look, we got a bunch of things correct. That's good. That's good. So what are we not getting correct here? That's what we're more interested in, is what went wrong. And so you notice that here it looks like it wants us to replace sitting with sleeping. However, when sitting comes in, we want it to keep its case. We want it to keep its uppercase. So how are we going to do that? Well, we need to check to see if this before argument that's coming in has a first letter that is uppercased or not. And so how do we do that? Well, we can just do a simple if statement and check if that is true, and then change the case on the first letter of our after. So how do we check that? So we can just say, so here's our argument before, and we want to just look at the first letter. So we're going to be bringing back that char at, which we used before, and just like an array, char at 0 is going to be the very first letter of that string. Okay, so we're looking at the very first letter. So how do we tell if that is uppercase? We also have something called to uppercase. So we could say, is that exactly equal to before dot char at 0, right? But to uppercase, all right? Uppercase like that. So that's how we use it. So we have these three parentheses here. Syntax, got to remind that. This parenthesis is the if. To uppercase has these open and close parentheses on it. Now, one important thing to notice with this char at, you're only looking at one single character. So I'm saying that is the very first character of before the same as the very first character of before to uppercase. So if it is here, is this jumped the same as which is going to be a J, character at 0, the same as a capital J. And it's got to be exactly equals, which is why we're using these triple equals here. All right. If that is true, that means we have a capital letter. All right. That means we have a capital letter. So what happens if that is true? All right. So if that is true, all I want to do is change the after to after dot char at 0 dot to case. All right. I'm going to spoiler alert. This isn't going to work, but I want to show you why it doesn't work. So I'm going to replace a touchpad here. Touchpad problems. All right. Let's see. I want to copy this, and I want to put it in here and see what we get out, because this is one of the things that we were failing before. So Control V. This is what we were failing. So if I have this statement, so I have a before, I have an after, I didn't open and close my if statement. That would help. There we go. So now our if statement will work. So if the before is a capital letter, so here's our before. We're looking at sleeping. All right. If we look at char at 0, it's a capital S. It is exactly equal to the char at 0 to uppercase. So it's one of the tests that we failed. So let's run this test and see what we get. Oh, look, we still fail, but here's why. Look, it says he is S on the couch. Maybe SOL on the couch, I don't know. But S on the couch. So we're only getting and returning after, all right? We're only getting and returning the after the first character. So we have to concatenate the rest of this. And luckily, if you remember our slice method, all right, remember slice just like a slice of pizza, a slice of cake. You slice what you want to keep. And it's going to take in 2 parameters, all right, up to 2 parameters where we can have the beginning of the slice and the end of the slice. Now, since we're only want all the letters after this position here, so we have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, so on. We want to get everything but the 0th position. And slice slices at right before whatever position you give it. So if I say slice at 0, it's going to start it right before this S. If I slice at 1, it's going to slice right before this I, which is what we want. So we have to concatenate this. So since we're using a string, concatenating a string is pretty easy. We just say concatenate that plus the after dot slice 1. So I have that first letter, and then I'm just going to add the rest of that word to it. And if I test that challenge, we're off the hook because it works. So you can see this was a pretty simple one. The only little hiccup there was making sure that you're using that to uppercase and that to slice correctly. And once we kind of figured that out and we set up that if statement, it was pretty easy. Okay, well, hopefully that was helpful, and I will see you next time.